in some of these days, I was afraid to go to sleep at night. I was literally afraid if I surrendered that conscious will to live, I could feel like my body was just like, I'm out, I'm done. I'm so tired, I'm so sick. Western medicine sent me home to die. Literally. Said, God, you can take me.
Ashleigh Lellos is the founder and creator of Bio-Emotional Healing,
a neuroscience-based method designed to help individuals overcome emotional trauma, chronic pain, anxiety, and limiting beliefs.
As a certified health coach and sought-after speaker,
Ashleigh has helped countless individuals reclaim their vitality through sustainable lifestyle changes.
Ashleigh, thank you for being here.
I'm excited to be here.
I can't wait for them to hear your story.
It's been a journey.
Oh, God.
Two journeys.
Do y'all remember her from Dancing with the Stars, right?
Dancing with the Stars and So You Can Dance.
Okay, I don't know that story, so nor do they, right? So I can't wait. Well, maybe some of them do, but I can't wait to hear it because I like, how do you end up on Dancing with the Stars? But okay, we're going to find all that out, right? But okay, I want to go back because I want to get to know you better, and so do they. Any memories as a child that kind of define you? Tell me about those memories. I want to know how you became Ashleigh.
Okay. Well, my mom, obviously I don't have this memory, but she always said when she was pregnant, she knew I was either a dancer or a soccer player because I kicked her so much. She had external bruises.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the most defining, I came 3 weeks early in less than 30 minutes, which was very definitive of my personality of like, this is what I'm doing and I'm going to do it now.
Interesting.
But my mom does share a story of when we were at a big bank and I got away from my parents and they found me.
How old were you?
I was like 4.
Okay.
They found me in a big board meeting room. I was on the table entertaining everybody.
Well, you just answered my next question. My next question was, were you scared? Only because I remember one time I was like walking through a grocery store, holding my mom's hand. And all of a sudden it was like, she was gone. I was so scared. I was like lost from my mother. You were dancing on a table?
Well, that makes sense. You'd be scared. And maybe different circumstances if like I hadn't made the choice, you know?
Okay.
But I've definitely been determined, brave soul, which I'm grateful for because through my 2 health experiences, I had to have that sense of determination to overcome them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, that said, well, before I get there, what was your childhood like? I mean, was it normal childhood until then? You know, so kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I started dancing 5 hours a day when I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's not normal in terms of 25 to 30 hours.
And that was just kind of in your heart, or was your mother encouraging?
No, it was completely me.
So when she said that you're going to either be a dancer or this, was it because you were like a little kid just dancing around the house?
Well, I kicked her so much.
Okay,
she was
that's
pregnant. Yeah.
Okay,
and then I did like dance before I walked. It was totally inherent. I feel like it's such a blessing to have something you're so passionate about, especially like with everything that I went through with my health. It was this thing I was determined to get back to. And of course, then that was replaced by neuroscience later on. But my childhood, I think, was different in that way. But I thought it was normal, like to commit yourself so wholly to something, even through the weekends, to where even my summers, my parents would say, do you want to take a break? And I'd look at them and say, why? Like, I mean, it was just something that I never got tired of, which now I see isn't as normal. But that felt completely normal to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I would argue that's because that's who God made you.
Yeah.
And for the very purposes that we're going to hear about.
Yes. Yes.
Remember, it's from pain to purpose.
Absolutely.
That's why you're here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And lots of pain. I've had lots
But
of
see, in my mind, that's why you're so purposeful. And that's why you've made such a difference, right? So, okay. And most of it, like when I look at who I am today, it starts as a child, like my dyslexia defined me for what I was to do. Of course, I didn't see it when I was growing up. I thought it was just dumb, right? I didn't realize it was my superpower. Do you have any, would you say that about anything that happened in your childhood?
Well, I think what was so hard is when I got really sick at 13 years old and I lost the ability to dance.
Started.
That's when it all started.
Normal childhood until 13.
Yes. Just
no health challenges.
Nope. My nickname was Energizer Bunny.
Okay.
I hardly even napped as a child because it was like I had this zeal for life where my mom said, even as a child, I didn't want to miss out on what was happening. So I didn't want to nap. I had so much energy. I went to school all day. I went and danced 5 hours a day. Energizer Bunny was my nickname. I was like the epitome of health, which is why it was so drastic. There was no warning signs to go from all of that to literally overnight fighting for my life. And that's when you say like feeling born to do something, it would be hard for anyone at any point in time, as you know, to lose your health. But when you're that young and you have this talent and this love and this passion that now you no longer can do, I actually had this moment of thinking, God, why would you give me something I love so much and I'm talented at to not be able to do it? And so at first that felt almost more painful because it was like ripping my soul out. But then I realized what a gift it was, because when doctors aren't giving me any chance of survival, and even the few who said, well, maybe, but you're going to be sick the rest of your life, you'll never have the physical capacity to dance.
Right.
I then realized, well, what a gift, because as much as I was going to live again, I was like, no, I'm going to dance again. And so to have something that caused me unbelievable pain to lose, but also was such a driving force to do again. And in that way, I see that immense gift that I was blessed to love something so much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have so many questions around this. Okay. First of all, let's fill them in on this, right? I mean, unexplainable illness, right? It wasn't like you had cancer.
No.
So it kind of goes through that. So what were the first symptoms? Where did it start? Bring us from the very beginning.
My only first symptom was actually I was getting my braces on. You know, that's like a big day that I wasn't looking forward to. And I was laying like this, you know, on the table, and my braces, and my elbows started to throb. I just remember that. I'm like, well, this is so weird. And I remember doing this with my elbows and rotating my arms. The very next day, I woke up with pain in every joint and muscle, 103-degree temperature, could hardly move.
But it started before the braces, because my mind goes, there's people that react to nickel and braces, right? You know what I'm saying? But okay, it wasn't that because it started before that.
Yes,
okay,
it was just, I remember thinking, wow, that's a really weird pain. You know, I was 13 and the next day it was in all my joints and muscles. And I remember going to my mom's room. I couldn't do a basic plie, which is just your very basic dance movement.
And no signs of this before.
No signs. Totally healthy, dancing, just loving life. No signs.
Okay.
And that was the first day. Yeah, I had no idea. 4 years I would fight for my life. I thought, well, I just must got really something that's really knocked me out. You know, flus can do that. Strep can do that. All types of things.
People get mono and don't bounce out of it. Epstein-Barr flares, right?
All types of things. And so this was 28 years ago. So you have to think very different world, right? None of this. You know, it was no internet, no podcast, no social media, no YouTube, no exposure information.
What was the date?
That was it was in 1996.
Okay.
1996.
Yeah, I got sick in 99. Again, very limited internet. I mean, you know,
very different world.
Yeah, very different. Yep.
And so even everything that we understand now didn't exist. So I got tested for almost everything that existed at the time. Every scan, blood work.
Same thing.
And all they could tell me was you have some rare viral infection we can't diagnose and treat. I got so sick where my skin was yellow from my liver shutting down. My hair was falling out.
Why did they think you have at least you had that? You know what I got? I got $5,000 worth of blood tests one day, right? And I had been to many other, you know, experts. And he comes back with, you're healthier than me. It's like that's the last thing I wanted to hear. If he told me I had cancer, I'd be like, okay,
no, completely.
I'll fight it. Right.
Yes.
So why did they think you had a virus? What was abnormal?
Looking at what was happening with all of my tests and my white blood cells and everything, they could tell my body was fighting something. Okay, right. But they didn't know what.
Okay.
Yep. And so essentially, after all of that, and you're so true. I would pray for a test to come out positive.
Oh, yeah.
Something to then go, okay, this is it. This is what we'll do. We'll fight it. But when you're living in this unknown of, I can feel my body's shutting down, dying, but we have no idea what to do. that's far scarier. And not just for you, but for your brain and nervous system, because you have nothing to latch onto. There's no predictability. There's no certainty. It's this unknown world while you are feeling your body slowly shut down.
Describe the symptoms. So it started with the joints, right? The elbows, and then what did it evolve into?
Gosh, about everything you can think of, right? I used to have like shooting pains through my back, my head. I started to sore throats all the time, chronic congestion. My gut was horrible. Like I said, my skin started to turn yellow. My hair fall out. I got so weak. There were some days I couldn't even lift a finger. It took too much strength to lift a finger.
I was there those days too. And
which is scary.
you know, and when people say it's not tired and it's not even like described even as fatigue. It's something different of like just not being able to be vertical. It's like having,
I remember telling my mom, it's taking too much energy to lay still, right? There's like this internal throbbing, like when where every organ muscle was like to just stay alive and be functioning. I'm exhausted.
Did you at one point want to die?
You know, it's so interesting because when we get to the second part of my story, I got to a place there where I felt like it was going to be merciful. But my first life experience, like life-altering health experience, I actually willed myself to keep living. Like in some of these days, I was afraid to go to sleep at night. I was literally afraid if I surrendered that conscious will to live, I could feel like my body was just like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm so tired. I'm so sick. So I would stay awake and keep willing my body to keep fighting.
Did you fear living your life like that?
I certainly had moments. I mean, like everyone does. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I was 13. I had to grow up so fast. No doctor expert at the time was giving me a chance of survival. So I think that's the most innate fear is first, like, am I going to die? But then also, is this the rest of my life?
See, that was scarier for me. Meaning that, like, of course, am I going to die? Am I dying?
Yeah.
But the bigger fear for me was living the rest of my life like this.
Right.
Like, take me, Lord. You know, and did you go through a thing with God? I mean, meaning that, you know, my wife had the faith, she had the anchor. You know, I was like you had said already, right? It's like, why did you give me such a gift if I can't use it, right? You know, I mean, I questioned God. I questioned my existence. Did you go through that?
You know, I was really grateful to have this faith that actually was the reason I didn't give up when experts are telling me.
Me too,
at
by
13,
the way.
right?
My faith was the reason, but I also was questioning God, though.
Well, I think everyone has those moments of what is this for? I'm a person trying to live my life.
13, you had that thought. That's a pretty good thought.
But I had this feeling inside, which I do contribute to God giving me, like there was more for my life. Like even though it made no sense, even though all the evidence and all the experts were telling me I was dying, which I just told them,
I needed my wife to tell me that. I couldn't come up with that on my own, and I was older than you.
Well, I mean, like I said, I came out stubborn and determined, and I think that was on purpose because I was so young, and I just had this zeal and love for life that also was like, no, I wasn't sent here to die at 13. There's too much in me. There's too much passion. There's too much love, and so somehow, some way, like I feel deep inside, I'm supposed to survive this. And people have asked me that. And I said, you know, maybe if I wasn't, I would have had maybe some peace around it, but I just had absolute determination. Like, no, I am going to live and I'm going to overcome this and I'm going to dance again. Damn. And it doesn't mean that I didn't have my hard days.
Dancing was a big driver for you, right?
Absolutely.
Because it was something you could grab onto. I mean, it was something that you loved so much that it gave you so much drive to get there again, right?
And that was the gift that I first thought was the greatest pain, to give me something and take it away. But it was just, no. The one thing they said I'll never do, I absolutely will. God did not bless me with such a love and a talent to stop doing at 13 years old. And so I'm so grateful for that. That was one of the greatest gifts that I think I came to this earth with, just to have something I loved so much and went through so much pain to not do for 6 years.
What was the scariest? I always say when I was sick, my nights were the worst, scariest for me. I hated it because I would get something beyond anxiety, a feeling of dread and a loss of hope. And I remember the night when my wife said, "What does it feel like?" And I said, "I just feel like I just want to be in a ball and I just feel like crying." And I don't even know what that means, except that was the feeling I described. Did you have anything like that? Or
Nights are the worst.
Nights.
They're the dark nights of the soul because the world seemingly is asleep, and you're
so lonely,
in another
scary.
survival of trying to get through the night. And that night can be so long.
And what were your symptoms?
Well, and those sames that I just said, like the exhaustion, but almost too tired to sleep,
Yeah, no, totally.
Too tired to sleep.
Yeah, getting up and moving was one thing, but too tired to sleep.
And then the pain in my gut, my joints, muscles aching everywhere, shooting head pains. I mean, it was like anything you can think of, right? It was like that plethora of symptoms that all cross over and then ping pong and then get worse here, better here. And it's just like this constant roller coaster ride of what's today going to look like. And I think that's part of the night is like you're gearing up for another day, right? Yeah. Of survival, of getting through, not looking forward to something that's coming in the next day. It's another day.
I know. Just hearing you say it, I go back into that scariness. My fear was I still had to try to make a living for my family, and it was getting harder and harder to go to work. Right? It was like that was always so scary for me, is showing up. And I was embarrassed too. As a 13-year-old, you probably didn't go through that, but did you go through self-pity ever at 13? I felt sorry for myself oftentimes.
I had, it was really hard too, because I felt so disconnected. My friends showed up for a little while, but then when it kept going on for years, people also don't know what to say when you're that
and then so
sick.
People they stop showing up.
So they stop showing up. And so I felt so isolated,
I
disconnected.
felt that.
But also then like I couldn't relate because here I was having to just grow up so fast and face something so big that I'm not relating to what is stressing them through adolescence, which again is just where they're at. But now I felt like at a totally different place in my life that made me feel so isolated because I was still young, but I felt so old and I wasn't connected to what all the teenagers were doing. And I was, isolated to my home.
And people don't understand. And so like, for me, that's kind of why I didn't even want to talk about it, because they just kind of look at you like you're crazy. If you have cancer, people feel bad for you. Yeah. But when you don't know what's wrong, then people start looking at you a little different. Like people thought I was crazy. That's why I asked my wife at one point, you think maybe I am just crazy? And she anchored me back, right? There's something wrong.
Amazing wife.
Yeah, totally. So that brings me to your parents. How did they go through this? I mean, obviously it was so stressful on my wife.
Yeah.
It must have been horrible for your parents.
It was so hard, and I actually felt a lot of guilt. They didn't.
I did too.
They didn't.
I did too. Yeah.
But when you are creating so much struggle for everyone, you inherently feel guilty for what everybody else is going through. Yeah. And then you're carrying that, even though it's not your fault, you're the source. And so you feel that guilt and shame over the pain they're causing, going to treatments, the money spent, all of the ways in which it interferes your life. But as much as I felt that when I was younger, just because when you went through, you were older, when I went through my second health experience as a mother and a wife, that was harder because now I was a wife, and that totally shifted our dynamic because I was sick, and that shifted everything in our life, including our relationship, our dynamic as parents.
I tried to push my wife away because of guilt, like literally.
And that happens a lot.
I was like, I literally would create fights. I just, because of guilt, I guess, where it's like, I'm ruining her life. We'll get to that illness.
Yeah. Yes. So yes, guilt is a big part. And I've noticed that with clients, and I'm sure you have with patients. they harbor a lot of guilt and shame over. Also, somehow there's this intrinsic belief like, well, I should be able to get better. And when you are sick for long periods of time, there's this inherent attachment of what am I doing wrong? I'm not doing things enough, because why can't I be healthy when seemingly other people are getting well, or everyone seems to be healthy, when we know it's not true, but that's what it seems like. And so you start to tear down, there's something wrong with me, which then also brings more shame, because why can't I get well? And all of that then is making it harder for the body to get well.
It's true.
Right? Because now we're just creating all these constant stress hormones intrinsically between this relationship with our own body that then we inadvertently don't understand is creating blocks and barriers and taking a lot of energy to us being able to heal.
What did they find? I mean, they suspected virus. Did they ever find anything beyond that, or give you any reason? And then what treatments did they suggest?
Yeah, well, Western medicine sent me home to die.
Literally
Did. It even said, well, maybe I'll make medical history books because clearly you're dying, but we can't figure it out or treat it. So they sent me home to die, which back then for us, we pivoted, right, to holistic, alternative, whatever you want to call it.
Because you have to, right?
We had to, but it was such a different world where people feel like you're going down to this lady burning incense, and like when you start talking about homeopathic medicine or supplementation and nutrition, it was literally just, what can we do to support your immune system to fight this, right? Because we do obviously have this incredible ability to heal if we can remove blocks, but support it. So that's
my philosophy. Remove the interference. God designed the body to heal.
Absolutely. And so that's essentially what we went on. I did homeopathic medicine, supplements, nutrition, food literally kind of became life or death, right? I had to look at it and say, does this support my immune system or does this take from my immune system?
Right.
And with all of that, and then the will to live and communicating to my body, like this capacity to heal and believing that we were designed to, that slowly but surely, right, I started to heal. It took 4 years really between life and death, and then another 2 to really feel healthy and vital to then when I went back to dance.
I would say it took 4 years to get my foundation well enough, and I still wasn't perfectly healthy. It was even more than that. I people should take encouragement. Once you get as sick as we did, it takes time, right?
Yes.
So, okay, did your parent, who was driving this? Like, to go from this to alternative medicine, was your mom, your dad driving?
My mom.
Yeah, it's typically that.
Yeah,
it's typically that.
Mom.
And no offense, man, but
I mean, my dad was like supportive and we'll do what we need to, but my dad also, we have a long line of Western medicine doctors on that side. And again, very different world back then. Where my mom was like, we will do anything and everything to get you well. Absolutely. Yeah. My mom would have given anything under the earth. And then it was my mother and then her dad, my grandpa, that led me to practitioners that also helped save my life.
So let's talk about some of the things that didn't work. Let's talk about maybe even some of the crazy things that you did, right? Like Jordan Rubin and I are good friends, and he went through his battle, and we always talk about some of the crazy things. Like I went to this guy and he had this TikTok machine. It was like, I'm like, okay, so, and we drove all the way, a few states away. And it was like this thing like TikTok. And I'm laying there thinking to myself like, oh my gosh, I came here for this. Did you have any experiences like that?
Probably one of my favorites is this man. I remember he pulled up my sleeve and he started rubbing my skin like this, right? Really strongly, just rubbing my skin. And I'm just going like, what is happening here? So after he created all this friction, he takes my hand and he puts my hand on my arm. He's like, do you feel that? That's toxins leaving the body. See. And I remember going, no, that's warmth from this friction.
But isn't this the problem with alternative medicine often, right? It's like, you often wonder times like, why they look at alternative medicine and go, yeah, it's all a bunch of crap, because things like this.
They do exist.
I know.
And I think some of them really believe. And then I think in anything, you've got good and bad. And you've got people that are, people are very vulnerable and willing to try about everything.
And that's the bad, right? People are vulnerable. But to your point though, some of them really believe it too.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like they're just trying to take advantage, although some are. But most of them actually really believe it.
Really do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think they come from a good place. Like
Yeah.
I believe most people do. It's just, it can get a little crazy
Mhm.
to where
I know.
it's like, we definitely have had those moments. It's just like anything. You have to find the right people,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
true.
and keep looking.
Yeah, you know, it's like when I hear these stories like ours, it's like there's always this process of then boom, you find, you know, the right people. So we got to keep telling our story. So, okay, so take us through the process. So what worked?
Just really all those pieces that I said. Homeopathic medicine, I think, was huge. Supplementation, the nutrition, and the most powerful asset that I think I had was just my brain and my will to live and what I communicated to
So
my
you
body.
never really identified virus, anything like that?
No.
Okay. Nothing.
Which is
Okay. All
amazing because I healed
Yeah.
and my second health journey was not connected to that other than the connection in my nervous system, which we'll talk
Okay.
about.
Can't wait to
But
get
my
there.
body, which I always tell people, is part of sometimes I think what keeps us from healing, and this is part of the brain's mechanism to have certainty, is we feel like in order to get well, I must know exactly what is wrong. I must have A, B, C, D, E,
That's
F,
human.
G.
Yeah.
Right? It's human. And it
Uh-huh.
makes sense because then it helps us make sense of what otherwise feels very unsafe,
Yeah.
no control. And that's a big barrier, I think, sometimes where people, even if they're working with you, they're like, well, but what started what and what is connected to
Yeah.
this? And you have to just say, notwithstanding, let's treat the body, let's support the immune system, let's remove burdens and
It's true.
trust that then the body knows and can heal.
Absolutely, because people want a diagnosis. They want a name. I want to know that I have, right? It's like, and here I am going, look, you know, I'll tell you how you got sick. If this is a stress bucket, yours filled up and flowed over. And that's when it all started, right?
Right.
And they're like, yeah, okay, what do we call that? Filled bucket syndrome. Does that help you? Yeah.
Life.
Yeah. But like, you know, but that's what's happening to people today, right? It's
Right.
like, you know, and some of us, it happened back then. But yeah, okay. So you did a lot of good things. Your body, you removed some interferences somehow. Your body got well,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep,
It's
got
like
well.
you got well. Now, did you have any, well, was it kind of sudden? You said it took 4 years,
No,
but
it
was there
was-
tipping points that?
It was very, very, very gradual.
Okay.
You know,
that was
and-
me.
and-
Mine was gradual.
And
Yep.
and you have to like look at those wins, even though they feel so minor, you know, but like me being able to walk from my bathroom to my bed instead of needing help, right? Because I was in a wheelchair for a long time, lack of strength. And then being able to walk like one house and then down the street,
Yeah.
right? And,
Yeah.
and just that gradual and like, oh, these symptoms weren't as bad today, or they didn't last as long or as severe.
Yeah.
Like you have to
Yeah.
really hone in on those wins to show evidences like, okay, I am healing, even though I still don't feel great. Like my body is giving me little signs.
My wife would remind me, look where you were, because, you know, I'd get discouraged. But, you know, my healing was like the stock market. I mean, it was going up, but it was up and down. Did you have those downs?
For sure.
Yeah. And
It's
did it
never
scare
linear.
the crap out of you?
Well, absolutely. And that's a big thing I work with
Yeah.
clients today on is those setbacks.
I know, because I would think my exact words to my wife were, I can't go back there.
Right.
Because I all of a sudden would have like forget about a good day. If I had a good week, and then I would think I was healed.
Yeah.
And then I would then it would come back again. I would be scared. My wife would have to talk me down. You had that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, well, the things you want most are the things you're most vulnerable in not getting. And so the brain already also puts all this protection around your heart because you want it, but then what if you don't keep it?
Yeah.
And then in those setbacks,
Yeah.
you feel like you're losing everything again, and all that fear comes rushing up. And because it's also latching on to that deep rooted fear.
Yeah.
Can I get better and stay better?
Right.
And so that's one of the biggest things I work with clients on is those setbacks that are part of every healing journey.
Yeah.
It's always nonlinear.
That's why I wanted them to hear that. Yep.
And that's the hard part. And your brain will then say, see, you're not getting well. And it does that to protect you from the hopes. And it'll go, see, here you are again. And I've told my clients, like, all these symptoms and everything become neural memories. And so they can be activated very easily. And what I always tell them is, as much as it feels the same, you're not the same. And you have to make that separation, because it can very easily, that setback, derail you and take you back, not necessarily because the body is, but because the brain is, and then the fear, and then you start monitoring the symptoms all the more, and then the brain starts to get stuck in those survival mechanisms all the more, and it can drive and perpetuate it to where you might have had a setback for a day, and now it's weeks or months.
It would happen to me all
because
the
of
time.
the fear as well.
Yeah, I caused a lot of the problems. You know, to this day, I fear mold so much. And I had severe mercury. And I always say it's a perfect storm. It's never one thing,
Right.
how we get there, right?
Right.
It's, you know, what brought our immune system down, what changed our terrain. But it's like I had extreme high mercury levels, which made me extremely vulnerable to low-grade mold in our home. But I realized I'm reacting to mold in other environments, even when I got better. So then it became this tiger or this dog that I got bit by. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, it's like to this day, I'm like, it's one of those things that I'm different. I'm a stronger
Yes.
person. I'm not that same person.
Yes, and
you
your
know?
body's
Yeah,
different.
exactly.
And
And it is.
That's such a huge piece of the healing that keeps us well. Because when we don't change the impact of what being sick did to our nervous system, it's like there's this subconscious waiting for the shoe to drop. And I believe, and just from working with clients the last 6 years, what I've observed is I think that's a big reason things keep happening, or autoimmune things stay around, or they divert to here or here, because our nervous system is now stuck in this hypervigilance, hyper monitoring,
Absolutely.
oversensitivity, to where there's still this sense of my body's not totally safe.
By the way, there's a name for it. It's called a cellular danger response.
Mm-hmm.
And we get stuck there. And your body's trying to save its life.
Yeah.
You know, but the problem is that place in the brain called the amygdala, it's like it's driving this, you know, and it drives all the hormones and the cortisol,
Yeah.
and then it makes you sick, or it keeps you locked
Right.
there. So we're going to talk more about that, because she's the expert here, not me, on that, because that's what God showed you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's now fast forward now. Okay, so life became good, you know, 13 to...
I came back to dance at 19,
Okay,
almost
all right.
20.
So life was good again.
Yep, back, and
All right.
then came back, went to school as well for my academics, and it was like, I got to seize the day. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing. I miracle. And then finished my college degree, but then had an amazing professional career. Dancing came back. I was ranked in the top 12 in the United States. Then I ended up marrying my husband, who was also a Latin ballroom dancer. We became a partnership. We did shows like So You Think You Can Dance and Dancing with the Stars and Broadway 8 shows a week, which is like so hard on your body.
Oh my God.
Miraculous. Like, look how strong my body was. And not to say I didn't have injuries and breakdown, but here we are, we're living our dream. We're traveling 45 countries around the world, performing. And then I had my daughter, which was another miracle, because they just had said I wouldn't have children. And because as a female, my cycle totally shut down through my entire adolescence, because my body obviously self-preserving, and that wasn't essential.
Yeah, energy.
And so I didn't
preservation.
have any of that regular hormonal development. And so she was a miracle.
Wow.
And it's like top of the world, like in our career, in my health. I've got my daughter. She was 2 years old, and I had to go in for a second hip surgery. And I thought it would go like the first, and it was hard, but 8 months later, I was back in my career. But this one completely failed, launched my whole body into chronic pain. I lost the ability to walk. When you're in that type of pain, then other health issues start to show up, right? Because you're in breakdown.
Of course.
I'm sleeping 2 to 3 hours a night. And it was like deja vu. Round 2, because no one's giving me definitive answers.
So the trigger for this, the hip, I mean,
The
as
hip.
far as the
Yes.
tipping point, if you
Yes.
will. Okay.
I was totally healthy.
Right.
And it took 3 years to find out that they actually left a hole in my hip capsule, which of course was sending danger signals
Exactly.
to my brain,
Exactly.
threw off the entire structural integrity of my body.
Yep.
And yet my body reacted so violently that it was just almost didn't make sense. And so yes, that structural integrity was gone. It was compromised, which again took us 3 years to see. It wasn't visible in an MRI.
And a hip is a stabilizer.
It's the most important joint
Exactly.
in the body
Yeah.
that constant feedback loop,
Yep.
right? Between the lower body.
Neuroreceptors, massive.
Absolutely. And it's so close to the organs and all the nerves that connect through there. But it was like this crazy violent reaction that made no sense. So then I'm diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic regional pain syndrome,
See, labels.
interstitial cystitis, because I had all this pelvic bladder pain too, had thyroid issues, chronic migraines, chronic TMJ, right? Yes, labels. I'm told I'm a chronic pain patient now. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to accept this. So we're going to do everything. And when I say everything now, I mean everything. And this was 8 years ago. So the world's
and now
very different.
How old are you now?
I'm 34.
Okay.
33. So, and I'm at the epitome of health, but my daughter's 2. I now can't lift her. I can't walk. We're at the height of our career, which is now impacting not just me, but my husband.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping 2 to 3 hours a night. I did everything: holistic, Western, Eastern, alternative, regenerative.
Yeah. Went back through it. Everything you knew.
Over 200 injections, stem cell, PRP, taking my own bone marrow from one hip to go to the next. My diet is right online, anti-inflammatory, all the supplements, sauna, cold plunge, PM, like
you name it.
You name it.
Mm-hmm.
To the point of where one day I looked at my husband and I was like, there's nothing left to try. And we were at the point of nearly losing our home because we threw everything we could to get me well.
But we got to that point too. We were remortgaging homes.
Yeah.
Like you did it all. I got to the point too where there was nothing. I did it.
Right. You're like, and I was scared to death. And then I remember that night when you talk about nights. That night I was on my floor, laying on the floor in the fetal position because I was trying to get through this unrelenting pain, which when I say pain, like some nights I'd be so desperate. I remember this one night. I was searching through my pantry and I'm so holistic, but I'm like, God, I need more than 2 hours of sleep. And I'm searching for a leftover Oxycontin from my surgery. And I'm so grateful. I'm so determined because I can see why people in chronic pain, they're just led to get relief. Like you just want a moment. I want to be with my family and not be in pain.
Yeah.
And I remember I took this Oxycontin that I had left from my surgery and I take it and I'm just sitting there like waiting. And nothing happens. It didn't even make a dent in my pain. Nothing. Which is terrifying. And nerve pain is especially so hard to treat. And I'm sitting there in my pantry going, I just took an Oxycontin and it's been an hour and not one thing feels different. And so that night I find myself again just rocking on the floor. My husband and I had just talked that day where there was nothing left to try. And I'm thinking of what my family's going through. Are we going to lose our home? What are we going to do? And I literally said, God, you can take me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't suicidal,
no,
thankfully.
I wasn't either,
right?
but I wanted to go.
But I was like, God, this is the merciful thing to do for me and my family. And it terrified me because as a teenager, I had refused to die. So for me, with everything I'd gone through to get to this place, to now start to lose that will, it terrified me because it was so in opposition to what I had gone through in my life. And so I remember laying there and going, okay, what if I do give up? What if I just accept all these chronic pain syndromes that they say are lifelong, that are only downhill from here? What if I stop searching for answers? And I sat there in that truth of what that would look like for me and what it would look like for my family. And I felt that 13-year-old in me be like, no, we don't accept this. So I sat there and thought, well, as I'm sure you had that same conversation, if I can't find the answer outside of me, I'm going to create it. And if they're saying my body flipped into pain, my nervous system is now flipped into pain, like switched into pain, I'm a chronic pain patient now, well, then I'm going to figure out how to flip it back. And that next morning, I started studying neuroscience. And it was like, I'm going to figure this out.
So when you say you start studying neuroscience, people would be like, where do you even begin? First of all, people were saying, what is neuroscience?
Right.
Tell them what neuroscience is and how do you decide to study it?
All the study of the brain and the nervous system, right? Which is essentially how the brain communicates to the body and the body communicates back to the brain, right? And so the beautiful thing about Age of Information is I could subscribe to neuroscience journals. I could
Mhm.
start to read studies. I started searching some
No,
of the top pain
I had a
scientists.
background. I mean, I was able to read studies. I mean, how did you do that? Like, it's not
You can
easy.
pay. You can pay
Yeah.
to read journals. The beautiful thing is I was a nerd. I loved dance, but I actually loved my academics equally as much.
Yeah.
So I thankfully had that desire and capacity and ability to study, but also my life depended on it. So I started to
mine
research.
too. It makes you do a lot, right?
Makes
When
you
your
do a
life depends
lot.
on it. Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I could learn from neuroscientists that were pain experts. Like in Australia, one of the best, Lorimer Moseley, he was so ahead of his time in understanding all pain comes from the brain. Why aren't we treating the brain and just the body? And so I started just studying and merging what I was studying with my lived experience, both with fighting for my life and now living in pain. And that's when I realized first, we have to, when we heal anything, we can't just treat the brain or the body. We have to treat the person. How has their life impacted and altered their nervous system? Because the brain has a data bank of everything, and particularly the more challenging experiences. And that's when I realized that even though I was a fighter and I survived my illness, living in that situation for 4 years had inherently programmed my nervous system to stay in survival. And literally once I survived, you got to think about it. Your brain is like, oh, what we did worked. You survived the impossible. Let's stay in survival. Let's keep hyper vigilant monitoring. Let's be overly sensitive, which is one reason I think through my professional career, I got hurt so much.
Absolutely. That's how, when I got well, I had my energy. All of a sudden I was chemically sensitive.
Yes.
I was hypersensitive.
Yep.
And then I was running from the world.
Yes.
That's
and I
what
work
you
with
just
clients a
described
lot with that. And then if it's not the chemical sensitivity, then it becomes food sensitivity. And then you start to have traveling pain, and then you feel like glass, like you have, and then they say, you just have a sensitive body.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you have a sensitive nervous system
it's trying to keep you alive.
that
It
is
thinks it's
trying
helping
to
you.
keep you alive, which is why I believe when they left a hole in my hip, well, I don't believe I know, even though there was a catalyst, the way in which my body reacted was being very much driven by its memory of fighting for my life. Because it was like I could feel this deep alarm system being turned on, as if like every pain, my brain was like, okay, here we are again. I got to protect you. I got to protect you. And so then that protection, right? The only way the brain knows how to communicate protection is through stress signals.
That's right.
Whether it's physical or mental or emotional. For so some people that shows up more like anxiety, depression, panic attacks. Other people, it shows up as pain, autoimmune, breakdown. Because how else does our brain and body get our attention? It has to come through stress signals. And that's when I realized, okay, I have to not only rewire these pain pathways, but I have to heal my nervous system. And it's memory of what I've gone through that has set it over in this survival mechanisms that now are sending constant protective signals that are coming out in pain. And then the problem with pain is those pain receptors get more sensitive also. So they start sending it to other areas. They lose specificity, which is why pain spreads. But doctors just tell us, well, pain spreads. Like it's this inevitable factor that's going to happen, but it's because of what's happening in the brain. And then I have to reestablish trust, because right now my brain doesn't trust my body and my body doesn't trust my brain, and I don't trust either. And so I have to heal that relationship, because as much as I felt like my body and I were a team, I inherently kind of also was waiting for it to let me down, and that
I know
happens
that.
for all of us.
I want to hear about how you did that. But did you read the book ever, The Brain That Heals Itself?
Yes.
Norman?
Norman,
Borlaug? Borlaug?
why
No.
is his name? But yes, the brain that heals itself.
Yeah, the brain. I mean, if it's everything you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, from the neuroscience perspective of that whole connection, the gentleman has a whole story in the book. But okay, so this is real. I mean, and this is so important. And it's like, and I feel like some people come out of it, some people are still stuck there. I had to reframe the way I perceived everything, even perfume, cologne, the smell of diesel fuel, and it was, understanding the premise of hormesis, a little bit of stress can make us stronger. And I knew I needed this. And I had to reframe my life. Right. And I got my brain to change. Right. How did you do it?
First, I created a whole process to do this, right? That's called bioemotional healing.
And you taught at my seminar. It blew people away. What was the date of that? I don't even
Gosh,
remember.
that was before COVID.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is, as much as I'm sure you would say the thing, I've continued since, and like what I've learned and what I've expanded, what was life-changing then is lifetimes. For 6.5 years now, I have witnessed
but you're still functioning
heal.
with a foundation.
Yes.
Right? Like I have a foundation of what I've taught, what God showed me, right? It's like, but yet it's built. And this is
and that foundation, someone who summed it up for me was actually Hippocrates. He says it's more important to know what sort of person has the disease than the sort of disease the person has.
Say it again.
It's more important to know what sort of person has the disease than the sort of disease the person has.
Yeah.
Meaning we have to not just treat the brain and body, but the person. We have to look at not only the physical components, but the psychological, their life, the things that have been altering, right? Because the nervous system, unfortunately, can be altered negatively in a moment, but not positively.
So that said, do you think your childhood sickness had an effect on your nerve system? And because of this hip, your nerve system immediately say, we know what to do to save your life, and we're not going back there, and put the clamps down?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And I eventually did have to fix my hip because there was a hole there.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Exactly. Right. But many people, they're the sort of person that could have went on for years just with that it wasn't good for their immune system, but their body was adapting, right?
Right.
But your immune system said,
no. And I realized that it wasn't, anyone would have had a negative impact from that.
Of course.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But mine was violent.
Yeah.
Because of its memory of the past. And it said, okay, I will do this. Protect, pain. And it just went into overdrive. So constant stress signals being sent subconsciously. I'm not aware of all that is happening. I just feel this alarm bell. But even before that, if we go back, I remember telling my husband, I feel this kind of internal buzzing that will never quite quiet. Like I could be stretching as a dancer. I would look so zen, like I'm just breathing. But it was like this internal switch was like, no, I'm not going to fully let go. Like I, back then, even struggled to get like a full deep breath because not knowing, but I think ever since I survived my illness, my nervous system was like, we just need to stay on alert because, and if people can relate this to their life, and it's the same as you, especially because the brain's a predicting machine, when something happens that is so life-altering and it lasts for so many years, it has a huge shift in the brain because there was no preparation, there was no predicting. And so part of the brain says, oh, I'm going to stay on guard now. I'm going to stay on guard so that I don't get taken off guard. And so it takes a shape depending on what that was for you. That's where some people now don't trust people anymore because they went through something. They went through some abuse or violation. But for people with their health, part of our brain now is like, I'm going to monitor my body and I'm going to monitor my environment. Yeah. And if something's off, oh my gosh, alarm bell. So you just ate something, rash, right? Yeah. Where someone else's body is like, doesn't feel good.
My body even upregulated my sense of smell. I mean, to the point where I'd be like, you don't smell that? I don't smell anything. Yeah. It'd be like, I smell, I'm telling you, there's something. And sure enough, I'd be right. I mean, I was smelling like a bloodhound, right?
My husband says I have a bloodhound nose. So totally.
But it's like, blind people, their other senses go up. It's like my body was like, we're upregulating this because we're going to save your ass.
Yep. And now we're going to just be constantly aware. But that constant awareness creates an overly sensitive nervous system that is always sending stress signals.
Not good.
And then we get breakdown, and then we get hyperreactivity.
Yeah.
And so what I always say is how important it is to treat the body for long-term health and healing, depending on the situation. We have to have that internal healing that sustains it, that tells your nervous system and your brain, notwithstanding what we've gone through, because we can't erase the memory.
No.
And that's the first part of my process is partnering with it.
Yeah, I want to hear the process, because if I was out there watching this, I'd be like, okay, please tell me, because this is me, right? And I think all of us can benefit from this in some way, right? Because we all have traumas. We all have traumas, right? And it's affecting us. It might be as mild as your little gut problem. It might be as mild as little headaches every once in a while, right? But, again, your body has an ability to heal. God put it there, right? And the interference could be, what we're talking about here.
Well, and I think the people who do all the things, like your protocols and everything else, and they're like, why aren't I getting well? It's the nervous system, the root piece driving so much of why we can't get well, especially in this day of information, is this overly sensitized nervous system that is in constant vigilance of sending stress hormones.
And I always say to people, like, I'm dealing with neurotoxic individuals, and, and we get them down. I say, okay, that's step one. But step two now is your nervous system is in this mode that we're talking about. Yeah. I did it by changing my thoughts, and then that changes my body. What's your method?
Yeah, thoughts are definitely important. You can never get...
I mean, it can sound easier than it is, but
you can never get away from that. Yeah. That is definitely like one of the first steps is just being conscious of even how you're talking about your body, how you're talking to your body, how you're talking about... That's what I had to do. I had to change how I was talking to my body. Right. So even if I'm saying all the time, like, my gut doesn't work, it's bad. We have to understand the body is wired to validate what the brain believes. The brain is the controller. So if you keep saying things, which again, they're always validated by evidence. You're like, but it doesn't work. Look at what I've gone through.
Yes.
But it's like, but then at some point, a lot of times the gut can heal, but you're continuing to send this message that your gut doesn't work. And that's communicating down, and the brain is controlling. And now my gut doesn't work because now I'm directing it. So just being conscious of what we've adapted in our language based on what we've gone through, but now is part of what's perpetuating and predicting your symptoms.
We have to change our thoughts, but we have to change our language. And I was going to say we have to change our belief, but sometimes we have to change our language before we even believe it.
Yeah, beliefs.
Because you know what I'm saying? Meaning, like my wife would say, sometimes you just, you have to speak it before you believe it, right? And then you believe it.
Yeah. And it's not, people are like, oh, fake it till you make it. It's like, no,
that's our other thing. You're going to have to fake it till you make it then.
One place where beliefs come from is just by what we repeatedly think and say.
Absolutely.
So yes, there's lots of different types of beliefs, but a lot of beliefs just formulate by what we repeatedly think and say.
Right.
So yes, we have to be conscious of what we're both thinking internally and speaking out loud, because they're both equally significant. Yep. And so just being conscious of that and taking responsibility for that, because they're, again, validated by what you're going through. So that's definitely like one of the most important steps, but it's just the beginning. What then happens, the first half of my process in bioemotional healing is 12 weeks long. And
what do you call your process?
Bioemotional healing.
Okay.
So bio, we're working with obviously the biology, the physiology, the body, the brain, but emotional, because emotions are one of the greatest impacts of what hold our nervous system in place. Because the brain has the memory, but the body speaks emotionally. And the emotions of what we go through, the hurt, the anger, the frustration, the fear, the overwhelm, they're one of the greatest things that then alters the brain and nervous system to stay in those survival mechanisms. Because often when we're surviving, we're also not processing, because we're just trying to survive.
Yes.
And then sometimes we don't allow ourselves also, because that's not a good emotion, or I need to be a fighter. I don't get to feel bad for myself, or I don't get to feel anger and hatred. That's an ugly emotion, especially a lot of female clients I've seen, they really suppress anger because that's not a very feminine emotion, when it's like, of course you're mad. Look at what you've gone through. And so there's a lot of suppression that is so intricately connected to processing to heal before the nervous system will actually allow that change to happen. So bioemotional healing is 12 weeks. And the first part is really about not only identifying and shifting language, but again, diving into your life and the events in your life that piece by piece alter your nervous system. It's like what you do with piece by piece with the different toxicities or different experiences. It's like that with the nervous system. It started to get altered here and then a little bit more here.
I make people do a timeline because I say we build up false identities, right? And the only way to change that is to look at those things, right?
Right.
And that's what you're saying. So start with the word we're speaking, thinking, right? And all that. And then look at your life.
Look at your life. And then I have a protocol that I created based on over 200 neuroscience studies to help to actually process. And it's a writing protocol in a very specific way. Where I've had clients who've done years of EMDR and therapy, and they're like, in 2 weeks, I feel different than I have in 10 years.
Now, if people don't know what EMDR is, describe it, but it's like vibration stimulating the nerve system one way while you're
and you'll actually move your eyes to help kind of rewire, if you will. And it's impactful. I did it. And again, I have nothing negative to say about it. Where I think it falls short, like most things do, is, okay, I'm here, I'm doing it here. What do I do in my life? What do I do when I feel that fear coming up? What do I do when I feel a symptom and I start to really feel afraid? What do I do when I'm triggered? Because now it's one thing to do it in the moment, but how do I work with my nervous system every day in my life through the stresses, through the triggers to change it?
In the moments, yeah.
And that's where I knew one modality for 1 hour can't overcome the other 16 hours you're awake, that you're maybe inadvertently reinforcing that stress response by what you're thinking, how you're responding to your symptoms. So one thing I can offer everyone here is we inherently fight what we feel in our body, which makes sense. But when we fight, we create that threat response in the brain.
Fight or flight.
That reinforces the protection around that, which then sends more stress signals that predict and perpetuate
So when
it.
you say fight what you're feeling in your body, like you have gut pain, how do you fight that? You have...
Well, what do we do first? Oh my gosh, how do I get this to go away? My body's failing me. It's not working.
Yeah.
You get this intrinsic tightness and I've got to get this go away. Like my gut hates me. Think of how many times my body hates me. My brain hates me. Like we say all these things that then we feel like we're at war with our body versus my gut is trying to communicate to me.
Yeah.
And when I calm down, my brain goes, okay, maybe it's not so alarm bells. Maybe I can calm down. Nonsense stress signals, and then reinforce this whole pattern. So like I tell my clients, we want the symptom to go away, but often we have to shift how we react to the symptom. It's coming.
Okay, we need a book. Where do they find your program?
Yes. If you search bioemotional healing, you can find it and my name.
So then now what's next?
So the first part is, yes, all that identifying, processing. Now we're at a place where the brain will actually be receptive.
Got it. Yep.
To say, yep, I have this history, but my future doesn't have to be a constant perpetuation of my past pain. Yeah. Then we go through very specific protocols to rewire, to create health and to create this identity and this stability and reestablish trust. Because everyone who's been sick or in pain for a long time, most don't trust their body anymore. Yeah. They want to.
Yeah,
but
I did.
That you don't trust it. Even when you get well, you're kind of waiting.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. You're still waiting to go through that reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah. Even today, if I feel like I was in a mold exposure, I'd be waiting, for,
Gotta let me help you.
Exactly. No, totally. You're helping me now. You're helping all of us.
Reestablishing that trust is huge. And then really harnessing the power of the brain to create. And I will hone in that power of belief and expectations, studies have shown, are more powerful than genes. They're more powerful than diagnosis.
Well, they change the genes.
They change it. And so really then now when people are out of fight or flight, they're in a place to harness that capacity to create and now wire health, wire trust, because that is our innate capacity.
Bruce Lipton was the first to show our thoughts communicate it right into our cells, change the proteins that we're making. We are proteins, right?
Yes.
And so our perceptions become who we are. Our beliefs become who we are. Our thoughts become who we are, right? And for better or for worse.
For better or worse.
Yeah. And what you've done is you've created a system to rewire that.
Yeah.
Because again, we can understand that, but we still need to follow a system to create that rewiring.
100%.
But this is real science, folks. I mean, this is real. I mean, this is as real as, the toxins that, make people sick, and removing them in the body heals. But unfortunately, they're left with this wired nerve system that's trying to survive. And so much of what you're left with is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's a wired nerve system. I went through it.
Yeah. It's not your fault.
No.
And that's so
it's
important.
Part of your body, what it does.
It's part of what you went through and how you were altered and how your nervous
And if
system
we want
was
to put a
altered.
name on it, we can call it post-traumatic stress, but it can happen from emotional, physical, chemical.
For sure.
Your body doesn't even know the difference, but it does the same things.
Yeah. And so the beautiful thing is where then people are like, I'm broken, damaged by what I've gone through. I have just seen so many miraculous healings, people bedridden, getting well through bioemotional healing. People who couldn't go into Target because of chemical sensitivity now can go anywhere. People who panic attacks are having the freedom, none trauma to where sexual trauma, where I had a client who couldn't even receive a hug from her husband. Now just had a baby.
Yeah.
There's no one way in which it shows up, but the nervous system is such the root cause of so much of our physical and mental breakdown, and it can change.
And, I'm dealing with people, neurotoxins. These are toxins that, obviously affect the nerve system in a big way. And if we don't remove them, we won't get well. But this patterning in the nerve system, it has to be dealt with.
Yes.
Because they have a memory.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, but if we can treat the brain from a physical standpoint, right? And we can treat the body from a physical standpoint, and we can treat the brain and the person and the body from an emotional standpoint, then we truly remove all barriers and we can fully heal, and we can sustain that healing.
Yes.
And that's what we want.
Yep.
And people ask me, do you ever get afraid, that you'll get sick again or pain again? And I can tell you with absolute certainty that I do not, because I have this beautiful trust.
She's further than me, because if you asked me that question, I would say, yeah, I'm still afraid.
I used to be.
I'm still afraid of getting sick again. Even though, now hold on though, there's a part of my brain that actually knows that I'm stronger now, that I'm healthier now than when I was in my 20s, honestly, 30s. You know what I mean? So there's a part of me now that would be like, absolutely can't happen. And I believe that. However, there's a part of me that doesn't ever want to go back there.
Yep.
Because it was that bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had that too. And through this process,
I still have to take it further. I want to, I do.
It's so amazing because notwithstanding that, what I've gone through twice.
Yeah.
And believe me, it's been a journey to get here. It didn't happen overnight, and it didn't even happen in the 12 weeks of my process, but that set the foundation and gave me all the tools to continue it. And all day, every day, I work with clients in the throes of fear, and it doesn't trigger me. And if that doesn't show healing, because I can work in it and know what they're going through and allow their fears to come in me and out me and be exposed constantly to all of the worst things that the body can do, I have such trust, because I know my greatest power and capacity is within, and I treat my body so well, but I have such trust and freedom from what I've gone through. In fact, this is my necklace that says free on it, because I used to wear one that said fighter, and my identity was so much, I'm a fighter.
Fighter, that fight or flight. That's not good.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was like, well,
freedom.
I will fight. I will overcome. And I'm like, no, I want to get free, where I truly feel free and I can live in the wisdom and the growth. And it is a priceless gift, but I can absolutely now say I have that.
Would you ever be able to help the people that you helped or teach this without going through the pain?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gives you the purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure you connected dots, because I've lectured to pain scientists, neuroscientists, MDs, and they're like, well, how did you connect these dots? And I'm like, it was the science,
Yeah.
but merging with the lived experience.
That's how
you connect the dots.
Yeah, I would never be able to help the people that I've helped if I didn't go through it. I wouldn't have connected the dots.
And that's the
and
only
my
way.
dyslexic brain helped me connect the dots.
Yeah, amazing.
Pain to purpose.
Yes.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What one takeaway that you'd want them to take away from this interview? What would it be?
The biggest one is that no matter how long you've been stuck, broken, sick, damaged, if you feel like you've gone through too much, the brain can change till the day we die. It's not a fixed device. It's adaptive. The body can heal and repair. They were designed to. We just need to treat the whole system. My oldest client to date was 84.
That's
so
awesome.
if you want to talk about some hardwired neural pathways.
I had one of those, and I literally was like, well, and she's like, I'll do whatever. She was like, I couldn't
amazing?
Believe how well she got so fast. It was remarkable.
And that's my message, because people hear your story and they hear my story and they make themselves the exception. And what I have seen over and over again is no one's the exception.
I love it. I love it. Oh my God. We got to go on the road together.
Let's do it.
I want you to come on all my coaches. I have, hundreds of coaches. But they have to know this. They have to hear this. Where can people find you at?
Yeah, they go to my website. It's my name, which I'm sure will be in the show notes, ashleighdelello.com.
Awesome.
And search by emotional healing. It will come up. I'm the only one who does it. I have a free brain body blueprint, which I'll also send. That is a great place to start.
Awesome.
And then if they want to dive in and do the deeper work, they can schedule a free consultation.
That's awesome.
On my website. And
Perfect.
then man, it's amazing what can happen.
I got to ask a question because I know people are thinking, what was it like being on Dancing for the Stars? I got to finish right there. What was it like?
What's so beautiful?
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you were in shape for this, but it was still.
it was a dream come true and stressful to be in front of live television.
That's kind of what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Film is forever. There's no do-overs.
Yes, right.
But the beauty in that was like, living fully in that moment.
Yeah.
Which I think was a gift, because it was like, there's no do-over for this moment. If you mess up, you mess up, but like truly be present.
Where did you finish?
Well, on So You Think You Can Dance, my husband and I both went to the finale separately. So we went to the very end. And then Dancing with the Stars was with the celebrities. And then we performed on there as well.
Okay. That's awesome. Ashleigh, thank you. What a great interview.
Thank you.
Yeah. Gosh, we aligned. So appreciate it. All right. Well, there you have it. That is a life-changing interview. If you choose it, you have to choose it. But let me tell you, we all can benefit from that, because our identities, the false identities, define who we are, but we have thoughts that can change who we are. And that's everything that you just learned. And you're going to learn from this amazing woman here. So pain to purpose. Start asking the different question, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What purpose do we have? What is God trying to teach me through my pain that the world needs? Ask a different question. You'll get a different answer. All right. See you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in always to the Dr. Pompa Podcast, but proven right here tonight, your pain is absolutely leading to a greater purpose. See you on the next one.